For almost the entire history of Kingdom Hearts, being a fan of this series has basically meant being a fan of the games. We have had manga, novels, concerts, and other material, but if somebody asks where the actual story of Kingdom Hearts lives, well, the answer has always been the games. So when Disney announced at D23 that Kingdom Hearts is finally getting a proper television series, you know, the thing that we all speculated was going to happen back in 2022 and didn't, well, what interests me about this is not just seeing the series get animated, it's also what a successful show could actually do for Kingdom Hearts, because for the first time, the franchise has a real opportunity to create another arm of its story that people can engage with without first committing to playing all the games. And I think that the fact this is an original story is the most encouraging part of the announcement. Disney is describing this as a brand new story that will expand the Kingdom Hearts universe with Nomura and Square Enix involved. And personally, I'm very glad that it's not going to be just an adaptation or a retelling of one of the games. But at the same time, if they're going to be telling a new story, then it also has to justify itself as, well, a story. I don't want this show to turn into being 10 episodes of setup for Kingdom Hearts 4. I should be able to recommend it to somebody who has never touched any of the games without giving them a whole 15-minute explanation about the difference between Unversed and the Heartless or something. And if they finish the season loving the characters but never buy a Kingdom Hearts game afterwards, I don't think that means the show failed. I think if anything, that would actually prove something that the franchise has never really had to prove before, that there can be Kingdom Hearts fans who are not necessarily Kingdom Hearts players. And yeah, I know people will see this as creating a segment of fans who are anime only, but I don't use the formerly known as Twitter app, so yeah, I think personally I'm gonna be alright. Maybe. Hopefully. And besides, think of it like this, if this show works, the possibilities get much bigger than just one season. You could have a new story following a generation of Keyblade wielders in Scala, another season exploring a different era, or another following characters who would never realistically carry a 40-hour game. It doesn't have to become an anthology, but television could become its own legitimate branch of Kingdom Hearts, rather than a one-off marketing exercise. The stories could stand independently while still connecting into the wider storyline, and suddenly, not every worthwhile Kingdom Hearts idea has to wait years for Square Enix to build an entire game around it. Now, the little information we do have about this particular story is where things start getting interesting. Nomura specifically told people to look at the key art and imagined what it might be telling us, and a lot of us took Nomura quite literally and looked at the key in the art. And then we looked at the clothes, and a lot of us identified this character as most likely being Helgi, who is one of the upperclassmen from Dark Road. The clothes and Keyblade are extremely similar, and since Nomura seems to think that we should be able to get an idea from that alone, that does pretty much lead me to suspect that most people are correct, and it is Helgi. And also, there is something that Nomura said back in 2022, right after Dark Road ended, that I think might be very relevant to why this is probably the case. He was asked whether we might ever see Xehanort's classmates and the upperclassmen again, and he admitted there were characters he was disappointed to restrict to one game, including people who left the story without getting to do much talking. According to him, Dark Road had size limitations, and so he couldn't get into a lot of the characters as much as he wanted, and he even said that while bringing most of them back in another game would be difficult, he had thought that their material could be good content to touch on in a book or something. Now, that's not exactly Nomura secretly announcing an anime 4 years early, but come on guys, I mean, come on. But I think that was a pretty damn good indicator that something along these lines was inevitable. I mean, the guy literally said that he wishes that there were characters from that exact generation that he wished had another medium to develop in, and now we have an original series with Nomura involved and artwork that may be showing one of those very same characters. And if it is Helgi, I actually think that his obscurity in Kingdom Hearts could be an advantage, because Dark Road tells us what happened to these people, but a show could give us enough time to actually care about who it happened to. That also feeds into one of the other obvious benefits of this show. The future of Kingdom Hearts is becoming increasingly dependent on some of the least accessible material in the series. Strelitzia, Vali and Sigurd are already going to be quite important in Kingdom Hearts 4. And yet, Union Cross is no longer a normal playable game, Dark Road exists in this weird offline form, and Missing Link, well, I don't need to say anything further. Now, do not get me wrong, I am 100% one of the people that absolutely wants that material to be made properly accessible, but I personally do not think it's necessary for this anime to become the replacement for it. I think it's perfectly fine to let Union Cross, Dark Road and Missing Link be their own dedicated things if Square ever decides to properly revisit them. I think they deserve that much, but maybe if this show does very well, it could open up the possibility for adaptations of those stories into anime format as well. But if not, I would like to think that it would at least signal that we want to see remakes or something like that down the line. But personally, I just think this first series might be better off if it isn't burdened with every accessibility problem that Kingdom Hearts has accumulated. But if it does help cover story details that we never got to see in Missing Link, then I certainly won't be complaining. Now, something else I also want to bring up is, of course, Disney. We have no confirmation yet of how much Disney material will actually be in the anime, but I would consider it a massive missed opportunity if there was barely any. Kingdom Hearts has always had this unique sort of advantage where it can take characters and worlds people already love and use that familiarity as the doorway into its own story. In a game, that still requires somebody to buy the game, learn the systems, and spend dozens of hours playing. But with a television series, it's a much easier commitment. All you got to do is basically just press play and everybody receives the exact same story at the exact same pace, which means strong writing and direction can communicate a more universal experience without having to worry about gameplay or player interactivity. And I would say that that actually includes the music as well, because we all know that Kingdom Hearts has an absurdly powerful musical identity, and I really hope that the anime understands just how much of an asset that is. Now, we don't know who's going to be scoring the series yet, but whether it uses familiar tracks we already know, new arrangements, or completely new music written specifically for the show, I think it goes without saying that just like in the games, the soundtrack should be treated as part of the storytelling. I also do think it's worth considering the commercial side to all of this as well. Cyberpunk Edge Runners is an example that immediately comes to my mind. CD Projekt Red themselves said the popularity of Edge Runners alongside the well-received 1.6 update they released shortly before it both had a measurable effect on Cyberpunk 2077 sales and sentiment. It brought new players in and old players back, and as one of those old players, I can definitely say that was the case for me. Now, that is exactly the kind of relationship a successful Kingdom Hearts show could have with the games. It could raise the reputation and name recognition of Kingdom Hearts far beyond the existing fanbase. And then some percentage of those new fans are inevitably going to look at the games and think, okay, maybe it's time to actually find out why I've seen Mickey Mouse dripped out. Now, we do not know when the anime is coming out. Disney has not announced a release date, while Kingdom Hearts 4 is officially set for late 2027. So I'm not going to claim that the show is definitely going to be positioned as a lead into the game, but if they do get it out before Kingdom Hearts 4, and more importantly, if it's actually good, the commercial logic is obvious. You suddenly have a lower barrier of entry to the series, reaching a wider potential audience before dropping the biggest game we've had in years. And now this is the perfect time to mention, yep, you guessed it, Final Fantasy 15. I basically think it shows the other side of this because the Brotherhood anime was created as a free companion show to help people understand Noctis and his friends and act as a sort of gateway into the game. Now, don't get me wrong, I think there is good material in it and it was reasonably well received when it came out, but it wasn't designed to become something like Edge Runners or Arcane, shows that have a major identity independent of the game they're supporting. I really do not want this show to feel like supplementary pre-release material that you have to watch before the new game is coming. And I think the fact that Disney is already talking about a brand new story and expanding the universe gives me more hope that they understand the difference. If this works, the biggest achievement is not going to be explaining Helgi, saving missing Link lore, or even selling a few more copies of Kingdom Hearts 4. It's going to be proving that Kingdom Hearts is strong enough to support high quality canon stories across different mediums, characters, and potentially completely different eras while still feeling unmistakably like Kingdom Hearts. And if this show can do that, then the question becomes much more interesting than what this one show is about. It becomes, how many other Kingdom Hearts stories could we potentially see in a format like this? And speaking of Kingdom Hearts stories waiting to be told, there's one character whose story will be significant to the future of the series in some interesting ways that I think I'm going to have to look further into. But until then, my name is NextGenNovelist, and that's all I've got to say, and I'm out. Peace.